why is the White House's line that everybody has the right to peacefully protest and not the U.S. thinks it's bad to lock people up in their houses to stop COVID?
We've made it clear, Peter, that a lockdown is not a policy that we're going to support here. But obviously there are people in China that have concerns about that, and they're protesting that, and we believe they should be able to do that peacefully.
Joining the conversation all morning long this morning is Dagen McDowell and Mark Tepper. Dagen, your reaction?
It would be nice if this White House could loudly and strongly stand up for the people of China and stand up for people protesting for their freedom and stand against the lockdowns from the Communist Party of China, the zero COVID policy, the oppression of the people in China. Oh, and the slavery that Uyghur Muslims have been put under, the forced labor in China. Again, just the broad policies of the Communist Party of China. It would be nice if this White House could stand up for the more than 1 million Americans who died from the coronavirus, which came out of China, and push the Communist Party of China and Xi Jinping to get to the bottom of the origins of the coronavirus. Any and all of what I just said. This White House needs to stand for America and the freedoms that we hold dear and stand up for the people in China who want the same thing and stand against the oppression of communism. And we get none of that.
Well, they didn't say a word when all the Iranians got taken to the streets as well to protest the woman who was beaten and then killed for wearing her hijab, her scarf, incorrectly. So we didn't hear a word about that, and we're not hearing a word about the protesters in China either. John Kirby was responding to a question, Peter Ducey's question, but Joe Biden should be coming out strongly, like you said, and holding that American flag of freedom and liberty. But it's his actions that tell a bigger story, Dagen. His administration came after soccer moms because they had the nerve to get involved in their kids' learning and CRT, and they pushed back on it. They told Meta to censor information about Hunter Biden's laptop right before the 2020 election. He came out with a misinformation board when, in fact, all the misinformation is coming from the White House. So I really don't have any optimism that we're going to hear a word from Joe Biden on this.
All of it makes no sense. But again, Americans know what we hold dear and what makes this country, quite frankly, great and superior, and why people in China and Iran are protesting, because they want the same thing. And the American people deserve to hear that right out of the White House. But again, again, a lot of what you hear is lies. John Kirby is, quite frankly, one of the best people who works in that White House, and that's not saying much.
Well, Mark, protesters are holding up a blank white piece of paper. This blank white paper is a symbol of the frustration with the Xi Jinping regime. Platforms in the communist country now rushing to delete these images from the internet, Mark. And we saw what was reported yesterday, how the Chinese bots, they have a massive social media campaign to flood Twitter and social media sites with propaganda and pretty much pornography and escorts. So it just, crowds out any pictures of the protesting.
Yeah, which is, it's ridiculous. Yeah, so what I've heard is that these are porn bots, to your point, that are muting essentially what's really going on, right? And let me take a step back and say kudos to the people of China for finally standing up, against these just this insane nonsense that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. These lockdowns have just been horrific, to the point where people actually lost their lives because of them. And China has no issue, when you look at these protests, with gunning people down in the streets. We've seen that happen. And if you think about it, China is laser focused on one thing. They want to become the world's superpower, economically, militarily. They don't care who goes down in their path. They are going to march forward, and they've made it crystal clear that that is their priority.
Right. And I just will point out what I point out all the time, and that is if the communists in China are running the world and the leading superpower, you can bet that you will not have the same opportunities that you've had growing up in a free country called America. So your kids and their kids and their kids should understand what that means, the CCP being the #1 superpower.